Okay, I can't see who's here and who's not, so I think I'm just going to get started. Paige, you can let me know if I should stop and wait a little bit longer. Otherwise, I'm going to get going. So happy Thursday to everybody. Thank you for coming, and a huge warm welcome to our first Xena Alpha Series webinar. We're so excited to have you here. And really, this is the first of many webinars that we're going to be doing. And our aim really is to give women in business in South Africa and beyond a safe space to be themselves, to learn, to chat, and really just, to grow. This really is the first of its kind in South Africa and in the world. So absolute historical moment, I think, for us on the team and for everybody who's here today. There are loads of companies that focus on women, but we are very proudly the first that focus on women in business and blending networking, mentoring, and funding for growth all in one place. So again, thank you for being here. And this is really, we call it our golf course. So the men have the golf course and the country club and the whatever else. We have Xena. And really the reason why Xena exists is to address gaps that we've read about for years in research and gaps that we've seen in our daily lives. And those gaps really are, women are naturally entrepreneurial, but have been isolated from funding products, from networking opportunities, and from mentorship opportunities until now. So that's really what we're here to address. And we're also here at the same time to have fun. Our main goal really is to change the narrative and to start having, really sort of real, honest conversations, and mainly to learn, but also to unlearn all of the things that we've learned to date. So if you think of things that women are taught, as children and even as older females, things like safety in numbers is something that really, has a negative connotation to it. But at Xena, we're turning that on its head and we're making it a positive. We are, we really are better together, excuse the cliche. But, at Xena, we really want to say things like, do make the first move. Do talk to strangers. Do talk about what you earn. Let's not make it a taboo anymore. The only way we can really grow and learn is by speaking about these things. I think one of the most fundamental quotes we read in our research was, I know more about my best friend's sex life than I do her business. And it's so true. I mean, when last did you go to the hairdresser and talk to her about how her business is doing, versus gossiping about the lady who was just in, or the lady who just walked out, or whatever it might be. So these are all of the conversations that we want to start having. Conversations also about credit. When we grow up, I definitely was taught that credit is a bad thing. Never take on debt. But when you get into business, a lot of the time debt is very necessary, and it is actually fundamental to growth. So we're going to talk about the options that are available to you, the funding that we offer on this network. We've already funded 2 women in the last few weeks that Xena has been live. So we'll be getting some feedback from them in the next few weeks. So lots to talk about. I'm going to leave you now by saying be open, be kind, be honest, and have fun on our network. Have fun today, and refer your friends. We really are about, paying it forward, sharing the love. And we do have an ambassador program. We've got sort of bronze, silver, and gold levels. So congratulations to Bev Durant, Sasha Knott, and Intabi Singh Matube for already becoming bronze members of ours. And we look forward to seeing you go through the ranks. And for the rest of the women to get on that leaderboard. So thanks very much again for being here. I'm going to hand over now to Alexandra Matthews, who is our first guest speaker. She is Chief Operation Officer and co-founder at The Delta. Over to you, Alex.
Cool. Thanks, Kate. Okay, let me quickly share my screen. Will you let me know if you can see my screen?
We can see.
Great. Oh, what do you see? A little bit about me.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So as Kate said, I'm Chief Product and Operating Officer and co-founder at the Delta. We're a venture builder, and we're based in Cape Town. So I'm going to dig in a bit to what all of that means. There are a lot of words in that one sentence, and I think the concept of a venture builder is still a bit abstract. But before we get there, I was asked to tell you a bit about my background and kind of like how I got to where I am today. So I started out my career studying chemical engineering, which was a terrible decision. It's really not, I really didn't like chemistry, so I don't know why I did chemical engineering in the first place. It just seemed like a good decision. And essentially I started doing a bunch of like websites and kind of products on the side for people for fun. And I was like, oh, IT is so much more fun. So I switched over to IS and mathematics quite quickly. And then like in the meantime, I was always like starting all of like these small little businesses myself, all of which failed horribly. I had a kind of data consultancy that I started. I had a thing called Cloud Digital. I think that's what it was called, to be honest. I ran it for about a year, and I actually can't remember what I called the business, which is terrible, which was like a website development company. I tried to start an online dating site, which was hilarious. I had another thing called, oh yeah, anyway, so none of them went anywhere. So if you Google them, you won't find anything. But at that stage, I kind of realized that like maybe I should kind of work a bit before I go into the startup space. So I started off as a software engineer. So I was building kind of a lot of like big internal and company systems with a software development agency in Cape Town. And like shortly after starting with, or yeah, probably like a year or two into that, I kind of started falling in love with data. Data, yeah, should be one of the things that everyone in here kind of like starts considering within your business. I hope that everyone's taking like a really data-driven approach to any decisions you're making. I'm sure you are, but first tip, use data in everything you do. But yeah, I thereafter kind of got into business intelligence, which is effectively analyzing data, basically. So I used to work a lot with like databases and do a lot of data engineering, and then basically build like dashboards that enable you to kind of transform like raw data into like insights that enable you to make strategic decisions around your business. So I was kind of leading BI at a company in Cape Town. And we were above Luno. And this was like back in the day before Bitcoin was a thing. Not really, it was a thing, but it was only 12,000 Rand at the time, which had I known, I would have invested, or I did invest at the time. I did invest, but not enough. And that's when I kind of like got into cryptocurrency and started like understanding like more about blockchain, and blockchain became like something I was very, very interested in, which is effectively like a database. I'm not going to get too technical. Anyway, so there I kind of left like working for people and went back into trying to like start my own things. I had made a little bit of money off of crypto. So I was like, let me take some time and try and do my own thing here. And I started two ventures then, where the one I was like a blockchain consultancy, where I was working with companies to try and help them with kind of blockchain, in any blockchain projects. And then I also started a community organization called Bexa, which effectively was trying to like educate people about blockchain, like what it could do and how it could be used. From there, I ended up getting approached, or I did this course with Oxford, and I met this German guy who was building ventures with this crazy entrepreneur in Germany who's been very successful and has since launched a unicorn, and got flown to Berlin. And at the time I was like, oh my God, what has happened to me? This is amazing. And I ended up getting back into like larger kind of startup scene. And it was really hard, really, really, really hard. And I ended up meeting Louis, who's our founder at the Delta. I'm the original founder, and also my boyfriend. And he ended up joining or coming into like work with me on the German startups, and they offered me the job to go and be CEO in Germany, and I turned them down and said I wanted to join Louis as co-founder and run the product and operating side of the business. So since then, I've kind of been a Delta. It's been 3 years now. So what do I do? before I get to what I do, I'll tell you what a venture builder actually is. So a venture builder is essentially a company that validates, builds, or designs, builds, and launches businesses and products. And we kind of launch new ventures, both with founders who come to us. So a founder will come to us and say, I have this really cool idea, but I need like support from a strategic perspective. I need support from a product development perspective, from a marketing perspective, in taking this to market. So essentially the first thing kind of that like I think we pride ourselves on is like if someone comes to us with a bad idea, we kind of try to help them realize that it's bad and work with them to try and identify and pivot towards something which has like a higher probability of market fit. So we've kind of developed a framework that enables us to take like ideas and test them incrementally over time, with customers, trying to essentially come up with products that we know will work in the market. And we try to keep our costs low for as long as possible, so we go as lean as possible. And yeah, the IP that we've basically developed is supposed to enable us to launch new startups, new products to market that will have a higher probability of success. And because like one in 1,000 startups is actually successful, so we are trying to effectively reduce those odds. So in my role, there are two different things that I'm kind of responsible for. The one side is product. So what is product? Like product at Delta is like we effectively design digital products. So like, you know, apps, web applications. They can be digital products or they can be financial products. So if, for example, we've launched a product recently, which is also in the lending space, we've done a few in the lending space. One's a platform to match businesses with potential funders, for example, which is more of a platform play. We've got other ones, which was in the retail space, like trying to match like fine dining restaurants with consumers. So it really varies. But essentially my product team is responsible for kind of like taking the idea from ideation and testing it with customers. We do the design of the product. So we actually are like the people who wireframe it out. We test that within customers. We then manage the development team. So we engage the development team to help us build the product. And then finally, kind of we work with our growth team to launch that product to market. So in my role as product CPO, I kind of manage the product team, which is made up of about 30 product managers, 36 product managers. Cool. As COO, I essentially, that's kind of like more about like designing our organizational structures. So we've kind of scaled really, really quickly in 3 years. We've gone from when I joined, we were like, I think actually 8 people, 9 people. And now we're sitting at 120, I think. It changes every week. And yeah, that's in 3 years we've gone from that, but actually in the last year it's been even more substantial. We've gone from like 30 to 120. It's over the COVID period, it's been massive growth. So I kind of have to set up the systems, our internal systems, basically, yeah, our internal systems that enable us to scale quickly. Which is really fun. And I'm now getting to the stage where I have to choose between product and operations. And it's really sad because I want to do both forever, but I can't. So like, I just wanted to go like now kind of talk about like the journey. So I kind of like looking at 3 years ago, this was me with 11 boys and 1 man. I say 1 man, which was Louis' dad, the guy in the background. The rest of us were like, I think like the average age was like 24. And yeah, like we had this tiny office, no process or structure in the company. We were working on a lot of like small projects and just trying to figure out what we were selling basically. And we didn't have any brand or marketing. Yeah, I kind of came in and I started off right away within both operations and product. Today, I couldn't find it. Like Zoom doesn't enable you to take photos of more than 4 times something. I don't know what that is. But yeah, as I said, we have 120 people. We're now based in Berlin and Cape Town. So we are now starting to push a lot more aggressively into the German markets. We have a whole bunch of German and kind of team in the UK and Russia and a whole bunch of places in Europe. And we're very remote. So we had to transition with COVID, and right now we have 40 ventures that we're running at one time and 60, 70 active projects. So we do a number of things. We work with ventures, but then we also do like smaller pieces of work for businesses that may come to us and say, hey, I want you to help me with my marketing site, and we'll help them do that. So we do like small pieces of the venture journey as well. Cool. So how would I describe my journey? This is one of the questions. When I first thought about it, like this was really what came to mind immediately. I started like looking for gifts, and I was like, what explains my feelings over this time? And like, it's been really fun and amazing, but like, it's so hard. It's lonely. Like I find, which is why I think that this is such an awesome initiative. It's a very lonely experience. It's really hard. Like when you don't have people to ask what is the right thing to do, Google becomes like your best friend. So access to mentorships becomes like vital. And like your role as it changes from managing like a small company or a small business to when you start hiring people, transitions so much. And it gets like really lonely because like I feel like if you start doing well, you'll like start to like struggle to relate to people around you who are not running businesses, and like work becomes your life, and then you just want to talk about it all the time, and people have other lives. So it's also probably another kind of one of those challenges. So yeah, I found this image, and I think it like very much represents like this is a global feeling. It's like not applicable to men or women. Like you kind of like fluctuate between like these awesome times when everything is so good, and then a week later everything's on fire and you're like, oh my god, and like you're running around, and then 2 weeks later everything's amazing, and then like I don't know, you're so proud of something you did, and then 3 weeks later you have to change everything, and like so it really is like this emotional roller coaster. And when I first started out, I feel like I was completely unprepared. I had like no idea this was coming. So I really actually found it quite traumatic, because I feel like working in a business, it's quite a nice, safe experience. Like you just kind of, you do the work, and hopefully if you do it well, you get like a gold stamp, and then you kind of move on to the next thing. Whereas entrepreneurship it's difficult, but very rewarding. So what are kind of like the lessons I would share from my side? So one of the things I had to kind of come to terms with quite early was that like things will change so quickly, and like I'm a perfectionist, and like I like to get things perfect. And as soon as I got things right, as soon as I had like everything in its bento box, everything like lined up, looking beautiful, something would happen and someone would come in and smash it all to pieces. So like I would like design our organizational structure, and I'd be like, oh, it's done and it looks so great. And then like Louis would walk in and he'd be like, oh no, we're introducing a new department, and I've hired 5 people and put them over there, and we're now going to do this, this, and this, and this. And then I'd be like panic station again, where I have to go and now fix it all. So like as soon as you feel like things are getting to the stage that they are like, okay, like things change so quickly, and you have to kind of become very okay with like embracing change, and things kind of often not even having the time to get things perfect, especially if you're moving very quickly. You have to be okay with things not being perfect, which is the second thing I would say is that I would kind of go into analysis paralysis about like getting things perfect. Like my org structure, I would have to design it perfectly, or like, you know, our performance review system, I would spend nights kind of panicking because I knew it wasn't right yet, but like because we were moving so quickly, I just had to have something out. And like you have to just kind of get to the stage where like you're like, is this okay for a V1? Like I can improve this when I have the time, but like especially the fact that things change so much. If the more time you invest in getting things super perfect, the harder it will be if things have to change. So I feel like in fast scaling like businesses, like you know, if it's not like 100% perfect, it's okay. Like rather get a version 1 out, because often what will happen is you'll release the first version of something within your business and it'll change relatively soon afterwards, because it's like a product. As soon as you release a V1 of like your org structure or like your product, and people start using it, you're going to get so much feedback, which is going to like result in you having to change that. And you know, so it's kind of like the methodology of like going lean and going lean and learning fast is really should be applied to even internal like business like operations, as well as your product design. And then yeah, the last one, which I think will probably, you know, everyone here will have kind of be familiar with, and which I kind of, this was my like the lesson that I feel like I had to learn, was like, you just have to swallow your imposter syndrome and like own what you're doing. So I think that I just didn't have the time to like, I had so many internal doubts constantly, and I had the voice on the side of me telling me that what I was doing was wrong, that I didn't know what I was doing, and like I just, if I had allowed myself to succumb to like listening to it, I would have not been able to move forward. So I just had to like really just, you tell it to shut up and like own it and like pretend it wasn't even there in the corner and just move. Um, because otherwise you really can just go into analysis analysis paralysis about things, because you're constantly like self-doubting in relation to different decisions, and you need to be able to kind of really back yourself, even if you think that even if that voice at the back of your head is telling you that you aren't perhaps good enough. And I was going to dive a little bit into it, but I'm worried that I don't have the time, Kate. So how much time do I have?
I think, yeah, another few minutes, Alex. All good.
Cool. Yeah. So I mean, I feel like everyone will probably, you know, resonate with a lot of these things, and I wasn't sure if everyone would know what imposter syndrome is. So just to kind of like let you know that there, because I feel like I didn't know this was a thing as well. And like, I just had this voice in my head the whole time. And then someone gave it a label and I was like, oh, other people experience this too. This is amazing. I'm not alone. Because it really is such a powerful voice in your head. And effectively imposter syndrome is like the voice in your head at the back telling you that you do not have any idea what you're doing. That like, you know, you all the work you've done is like to get you here, like actually it was actually just really luck, and you're just really lucky that you like met all these people and are in the position that you are. It's like downplaying like the success that you've made. Like a man would never do that. Actually, I lie, I take that back. Men also experience imposter syndrome, but we'll get to the stats now. Women, like, we are much more vulnerable to it. If you see these things, like success is not a big deal. We don't make it a big deal. We have these successes and then move on so quickly and kind of get back into the cycle of not thinking we're good enough, and we really don't recognize our success enough. So these are kind of like some of the phrases that I feel like if you've heard these, it has a name, and it's called imposter syndrome. And essentially, like, I found that like when I kind of started researching it, you know, I just kind of give you show you a bit of a cycle of how this comes up. It's like you'll work on a project, you'll like panic about the project, you either like over prepare or you procrastinate on the project, and then you like succeed and you do it and you're like, oh, that was great. And then people are like, this is so good. And then you start thinking, that voice inside your head is like, nah, like could have been better. Like, and you start doubting yourself again, like right after you've done something good, and then you go back into the cycle. And in entrepreneurship, it's even worse, because like you don't have someone telling you it's good. Like you have to tell yourself it's good. So like you make a decision and stuff like happens, and like no one is there to be like, well done, go you, like this is going great. Like you are kind of like at the top of the business. So like hopefully you get upwards feedback and people like validate you, but like I guess it really sometimes doesn't feel the same in a way, which is really weird, as having like, you know, someone more senior be like, you did amazing. There's not that person anymore. So now you have to be like the validator of yourself. So like like it's even more kind of difficult, I feel like, in entrepreneurship, because like you over prepare, you accomplish something, and then you're like, you could have done better, and like there's no one there to even be like, hey, you did good. So it's even more difficult. So quickly on the stats, I mean, like here 70% of women are kind of likely to experience imposter syndrome, and if you look at men, it's 18%. So it really is like yeah, it really is so much more prolific with us, and especially like within entrepreneurship, and that's generally like in business and not specific to entrepreneurship, but like in entrepreneurship it's even worse. Like 56% of entrepreneurs suffer from this, and that's because like we operate in these conditions of really high uncertainty. You have no one to validate you but yourself, and you are always stepping out of your comfort zones, and like a lot of the time that voice that tells you you have no idea what you're doing is right, because you don't know what you're doing a lot of the time. And you're like, I'm going to try to figure this out, and hopefully it works. And then it does, and you're like, oh, thank God. Like, and sometimes it doesn't. And then if your negative voice is there being like, oh, look what you did, like you're just going to be crippled. So it really is so important to like catch yourself and try to become more self-aware of this. I'm going to skip that one. So that you can try and like uncondition yourself, because it really is one of the greatest inhibitors of your own success. So kind of things that I like tips that I would kind of suggest, and I will not lie, like I like still feel this like daily, and have like I'm telling you this, but I'm like reminding myself of the same thing, because like I still have the same feelings that come up. But, you know, we have to be better at celebrating our successes. When things go right for you in your business, you know, write it down as well, because like, this is another like thing I found is like, when you do get that voice telling you like negative things, you can then go and refer to all the successes and you'd be like, logically, what you're saying makes no sense, because look at all the good stuff you did. Whereas like, if you don't keep track of it, like in that moment, you're like, nothing I did was good. And like, it's completely irrational, but like, if you write it down, it can help. The kind of self-awareness, like going into your own business and like becoming a business leader, you will have to invest so much in this. And you will have to become very conscious when these kind of feelings come up. Being kind to yourself, which I'm terrible at. Being like self-compassionate is something that I'm having to like work on every day, because like when you don't do things well enough, I still catch myself being like, oh, you should have done that better. And a lot of the time, you know, you've actually done a really good job, and better than, you know, anyone expected, but like you hold yourself to this ridiculous standard that no one else does. So being kind to yourself is like super important. And then the last thing is like, I guess in relation to like what we're doing here, which is amazing, is this talking about it. So like, yeah, I hope the fact that I brought this up, and maybe like maybe some of you have experienced the same feelings at some point in time, it makes you feel less alone. It makes you realize that the voice in your head is not valid, and that like it is something that you can take control of, and you should like prioritize trying to train within yourself, within your journey. Anyway, that is the end of my presentation, Kate.
Alex, thank you so much. That was, loved your energy, loved how candid and honest you were. I think we all laughed a lot. We all nodded our heads a lot. I think there was a lot, you know, that we learned and that we could definitely relate to. You know, and I mean, I've met you on a few occasions previous to this, and I would have said that you were the last person on the planet to suffer from imposter syndrome. So, you know, it just goes to show that we all suffer from it, and a lot of the time it's the most unlikely of people, the most successful of people. So thank you so much for bringing that up, and I think your tips were excellent, and also just well done. I mean, it's awesome to see how your company has grown and the success that you've seen, and especially during COVID. I think that's awesome, and I think the ladies on the network can learn a lot from you. So thanks so much for being with us today.
Pleasure, guys. Pleasure.
I'm going to hand over now to Erin and Tumi, and they'll take the floor for the rest of the webinar.
Thanks, Alex. Yeah, I must say it's something that I also that I've bumped into, and I mean, it's this concept of almost feeling uncomfortable in your own skin every other hour of the day, where you're going, you almost want to burst. It's that nervous, exciting energy. Oh, now you're already, hello, it's a different Alex. Welcome back.
Sorry, I didn't save the
I was like, and who is this? But no, and I think we often find that, and that whole thing about celebrating successes, owning an accomplishment, finding yourself thinking something, believing something, but almost too scared to say it, because just in case somebody else is going to look at you going, oh, but that's what I thought, or that's what I said, or kind of diminishing something. And I think it's something that kind of self-doubt is also something that we just have to swallow. I like that concept, just swallow it, kick it, and move on. So kind of just coming onto the whole concept of Xena, and I definitely think there was such a huge, beautiful opportunity to share with you guys today. Where did this whole thing come from? So where did this all start? What is this about? Why did we decide to launch this platform network app concept? What was the thinking behind it? And I suppose in the spirit of kind of just looking back and reflecting on things, I took a hard look. It was probably 2 years ago I was in Amsterdam at a conference, and one of the key things that was not solvable, or it was one of those things that came up through all the keynote speakers in that week, of how women, this rise of the female economy, was something that was discussed, but then it was always how this is a problem. It's something to be solved. There is a gap, and it was such I felt weirdly uncomfortable. Now, the introvert that I am at these conferences did not have the confidence to walk up to one of them and go, what do you mean when you say that this is a problem? Keep this inverted commas or quotes that air quotes that they made. And it got me thinking. So I was probably thinking for a while around this whole thing of, why is it always an issue that when people are trying to accomplish or become something, and it suddenly attracts this focus, and there's this movement that starts. And at that time, coincidentally, there was a lot of this Me Too going on at the Oscars, and this gender equality conversations at conferences, and there was definitely something there. But it was, I suppose, scary for me in a way, that the focus between empowering and becoming activistic around it was so conflicting. And I really believe that it was more around creating a platform than creating a stage. So I kind of had this whole dream of this just being something that was owned. So left it there, thought about it, talked about it, left it there, as we do, like business number 2023. We spoke about it the other day, the life of the entrepreneur, living with him. He is on his 10th business, fortunately now for 10 years consistently. So the 10th one has been 10 years. So we're on a 10-10 strike, 10 years married as well. So 10's a good number. Retail Capital's 10 years old. Just go for it. Just stick it in there. That's the good number. So there was definitely this, obviously it was a local global thing. It wasn't just here. And I think women generationally was always actually hustling a little bit. I can remember my Oma bucking cookies for a market that they were selling at a bazaar. So there was always this kind of entrepreneurial thing of providing and caring and sharing that in the community. But it was never labeled and it was never rewarded. And suddenly when we started doing these things, we became. So during COVID, what scared me, and I'm saying scare, I hope Tia is actually on this call, because she was probably the one person, she's a colleague of mine that came and she sat down across from me, and we were just shocked at how women were struggling during COVID and how many of them had to walk away from their dreams. Businesses that they've built, that have invested, literally, I've got goosebumps, blood, sweat, and tears. And a lot of the reasons for that is the fact that they weren't supported in the same way. Their businesses did not consist of the structures and systems and processes that often more established masculine businesses had to available to them, and they had to become supporters. They had to go home and care for family. They had to start homeschooling their children, and the load, the burden of caring and providing often fell more on the women role players in society. And I was just thinking that if but only we had a platform or a space where they could tap into resources and other people or mentors or coaches that could just kind of talk them through this scary 2 o'clock in the morning thought. And my dream for this was just, shame on us if we let this crisis not learn from this and not come out of it with some form of learnings and earned knowledge to put something into the system that will not let women feel alone during a time like this. So I had loads of conversations around this. And I mean, it was a foreign concept, because how do you create a female platform and not make it feministic? And then you're going to alienate the guys. And what if it competes with existing products? And what if it's not accepted in the market? And what if? And there was so many of those. But there was receptive ears, there was receptive hearts. And I think slowly, as the penny started dropping and we started seeing the numbers and how the women clawed themselves back, their businesses started taking up their repayments and just kind of owning their journeys, it was inevitable. It was just, there is this massive opportunity in supporting women and helping them to grow themselves. So women are tough. They're really tough, but it's tough out there too. So Alex, what you mentioned before, it's hard. It's so hard. It's really, really tough. And it sometimes is that bringing that kind of knocking you to your knees tough. When I love that meme of that child just collapsing on the bed, it's literally like I physically feel that. It's a real, I could look at it and feel it. And ultimately at that stage we decided, okay, this requires research. Okay, now we're going to research, because all the OCD in us goes, we need numbers. So again, guys, everything's so important. Numbers, data, analyzing information. It tells stories. Data tells beautiful, beautiful stories, and it just de-risks your investments and whatever it is that you want to put out there in the market. So massive key learning there. I cannot support that enough. We're overthinkers anyway. We might as well have good data to support our overthinking. So do the research and know what it is at least that you're thinking about. So we launched into this research thing, and I went about surrounding myself with these superwomen, these talented, exceptionally talented women. And I mean, Tumi is one of them, Kate's one of these, a lot of women. And I mean, I could have just left the research there. I mean, that was the solution. So if you want to do something, surround yourself with powerful women. We might as well have not, we didn't even need to go further. But yet through that discussions and the questions and the information that we obtained, it was crystal clear. Women don't have time. If they have time, they don't have the energy. So it's like a bad little zigzag that you're playing. So they don't have time. They definitely did not have the same networks. And if they had networks, it was the moms of the kids that their children go to school with, or it's the woman in the neighborhood that is on the security and safety thing that knows when somebody's stealing something in the street. Or when they want to know who's the best plumber in the northern suburbs, they go onto Facebook, into some group, and they ask some random person to tell them. I mean, it could just be an opportunist putting himself out there, arriving at your door the next day to come. I mean, it's insane the amount of trust that we put into a platform that's actually so not secure. And out of that, conversations and learnings and studies and research we did, it was obvious. Give them something that's convenient, easily accessible, make it a network, have mentorship and coaching opportunities available where they can speak to real people, and not just some talk that covers 90% of the population, but actually really doesn't address my issue that I'm currently struggling with, whatever that may be. And that was Xena. Xena became, I suppose, more than anything, a safe space. It's where your information and your profile and your personal thing, it's secure. That information, I mean, touch all the wood, should never go anywhere. And we all know online environments, but I mean, we've done the hard work, we've done the research here. So where your information is protected and safe, and it's honest, it's relatable, it's real, the people are real people, there's no bots there looking at the algorithm, pushing something out. It's true to what we believe and what we stand for. So I suppose my dream ultimately for you and your business, and just for us as a community in general, is to kind of break down those barriers of conventional thinking, those things that we've been kind of pre-programmed through either conversations with ourselves or with other people, is to swim against that stream, to go against that grain and challenge yourself most of all, because I think that's where that key learning is don't look at other people. That whole thing about the self-validation that Alex mentioned, like, put that above your head. I mean, one of the first things that I wanted to think about this platform is how do we make it go viral? And I wanted to stick viral above my bed, but I think that would not have looked, it would have looked weird if you look into my bedroom and it is viral. So I kind of left that and put it a note, like a side note, is how do we actually make this something that draws women in and make them feel safe? So that's the dream for the platform. And I suppose when we look at it, and that's where the Alpha series came from, we're leading ladies in our own movies that we are narrating, directing, and playing that kind of lead role. So let's not underestimate the alphaness that is what makes us us. But every alpha needs a pack that she runs with. And that network that you need to build that supports you should be of women that's like-minded, that shares your thinking and that can actually complement you, not same as you, because ideally you want to have women around you that think differently and that challenges your thinking, that can complement your thinking around things that you're not necessarily good at. So that's very important. Build that network of women. And then one of the first conversations that Tumi and I had in the boardroom was around, it's for our girls. I mean, between the two of us, we've got 3. We are raising a generation of women that are going to have to go out there and be warriors themselves. So let them have battles. Let them go into battle. Let them have their own challenges, because I think it builds character. I desperately hope so. Otherwise, I don't know why we're doing this. But I really believe it builds a strong character. But let them surely not have the same ones we did, because that would just be sad. So the dream here is that we will also pay this forward for them and build empires that they can inherit, build beautiful cathedrals that they can walk through and own. I think there's a beautiful generational blessing that we can pass on to the next generation, apart from a recipe book and I don't know, the linen that you got in the kiss from your grandmother. There's beautiful other things that we should be passing on to the next generation. And that's where the whole conversation came about with Tooms, where I said to her, gosh, women, we honestly need to think about how do we change this narrative to become something that is strong and powerful and bring this message forward. And I mean, Alex, we've not even met, but I mean, the similarities and the shared thinking around a lot of these things, it emphasizes that there's, the common knowledge of shared experiences. Even if you have 2 sets of experiences in completely different environments, you kind of share that. So really the invitation to all women is bring your friends onto the platform that are also having their businesses, that are trying to start it out, that are trying to take it to the next level. And we absolutely value your input, your shared knowledge into the platform. So let that become the place where you also get to pay it forward and mentor or share your knowledge with other women. So on that, Tooms.
Yeah.
Why are you so quiet? You're never so quiet.
No, because I'm literally just taking it all in. I mean, I think you said it so nice when you said, I mean, I've never met Alex. And I just feel like after this we're going to become best friends with everybody else. Now she's like part of the pack. But yeah, firstly, thank you to everybody else who's on the call, and just for you guys trusting me and allowing me to come and share my journey, allowing me and Alex to come and share our journeys. There were so many aha moments there. Like I had Oprah moments every 2 seconds. Like I'm just nodding. But I mean, I could have started my conversation with where I started and all these things and so forth. But I just wanted to reiterate in terms of, what you just said, trying to start with a group of wonderful women who build up and support you during hard times. When I started the business, I did not even know in terms of where and how to go and so forth. And if anybody had to ask me, what's made me succeed and continue every time, is the group of support that I've had. I think every other entrepreneur needs not just women, but surround yourself with people who believe in the dream, because you are waking up every day and you're trying to build this product, and to Alex's point, trying to make sure that it's like finesse to the T and all these things and so forth. And you fail a couple of times. I mean, learning number 77 along my entrepreneurial journey is, success or perfection is like a myth. I think the journey of winning and getting it right is making sure that you fall a couple of times, but making sure when you do fall, I can call on Kate and say, actually, I'm not feeling so well today because it's just not working, or I can call on anybody else within the group. So when you called me and you told me about Xena, I mean, you and I had not even spoken about how it's going to unfold. All I heard was a network of supportive women, a space that allows you to be vulnerable. Nobody's going to judge me. I mean, you called me 30 minutes ago or an hour ago before we started. My hair looked like a mess, and just trusting that, I can trust you with who I am. And I think that's the type of support that we need as women. Kate called it, our golf course, and we need to be building more golf courses going forward. But over and above why I started, a business, and I keep on saying starting a business as opposed to entrepreneurship and all these things. I've always known that I'm different. From a very young age, but I just didn't know where my difference was going to be, how it was going to be accepted in society. I've always asked the question, why is the sky blue? Why do I have to study marketing? Why do I have to be bare feet and pregnant in the kitchen and so forth? Why do the men get to go to work and come back and drink whiskey, and I still have to work, but I did the same thing, and all these whys I just needed answers to and so forth. I started in the corporate world, and I still didn't understand, why is it that I need to play by the rules? And by the way, who set these rules? Why is there no shortcuts and so forth? And I'm reminded by one of my favorite writers and so forth. Her name is Chimamanda Ngozi. She is like a Nigerian writer. And she says, I'm a person who believes in asking like a lot of questions. I'm deeply dissatisfied about a lot of things, gender equality, about the injustice, especially around when it comes to women and the world, the way that the world just works. And in some way, because she's an author, her dissatisfaction inspires her stories. And in a very weird way, my dissatisfaction in terms of how I've seen women being treated have inspired why I want to continue possibly changing the narrative. And in terms of, and answering the why. So that's how my journey into entrepreneurship started. Over and above the fact that I think I have an unemployable personality. Again, it's because I feel like I've always been misunderstood, because I continue to ask the questions all the time. And it feels like the more I ask questions, I just irritate people, So I just continued on my way and figured, the best thing to do is probably then start and figure out what this whole business thing is all about. Why, again, Xena excites me so much is, ironically, when I then decided I want to go into entrepreneurship, the males around me were the ones that gave me business advice. I could not even find one single person or one single female that I could say, so what's happening with the cash flow? What do they mean when they say SARS? SARS, another topic for another day. You know, how do I manage this and so forth? And to your point, Erin, a lot of the women that I found could not openly discuss about their finances. It was something, and it's still something that's quite taboo, but it's something that we need to understand, because that is almost like the crux of the business. Understand your numbers, know your data, you know, create work that speaks to your audience, but create work that is almost like data driven all the time. So when I started Muhube Media, after Alex, to your point as well, failing a couple of times, but I've failed within the same space of marketing, right? And I took almost like my frustrations that I had when I was a client, the first time we started opening up a creative agency and so forth and so forth. And I was like, you know, so how would I do it better? Because I think sometimes you think that success being you having to start something from scratch. And it could literally be you doing it better than somebody else, but the same product, the same service, and so forth. So when I started Muhube Media, similar to Xena, it was, how do I start an agency that provides very innovative communication tools or solutions, but differently from how everybody else is doing. So the answer for me was, my bigger frustration was, we needed to collaborate with other people, and not just anybody else, because I think as individuals we're different and so forth, but we needed to be different. We needed to be innovative, but innovation meant that you needed to be brave, a lot of something that women are scared to be. And being brave means that you need to do things and say things that make people a bit uncomfortable sometimes. But I think that's what has led to the success, you know, because the clients come back for something that's slightly a bit more out of the box. And we've allowed ourselves to be a bit out of the box, similar to Xena. And we continue to be like that. And we are a comms agency that is blended. Blended in the sense that everybody within, you know, my team is from young, old, millennials, zillennials, my mom, who sometimes doesn't understand, but, you know, it's almost like we're a family and we pick on each other's brains. And hence, you know, I cannot overly emphasize how important networking is, and working with people from different backgrounds is so important in terms of building your business. And then I got into it and I wanted to grow. And why Xena continues to excite me so much is, you know, again, we don't talk about money. We don't talk about, you know, you've started, so now I need to grow. So where do I get the funding from? We don't speak about credit. We don't understand what credit all means and so forth. The banks have got like red tapes from hell here to hell on, so you don't even bother to go and ask them and so forth. So a lot of women don't have a place where they can go and generally say, but I don't know how to do this, and how do I, you know, figure out where my growth patterns are and so forth. So that's almost like been my journey. I studied because I needed to. Marketing was almost it was a default. I was going to be a lawyer, to be honest with you, because I loved watching lawyer things on TV, and I just wanted to put the bad people away and so forth. And I'm not sure what happened to that dream. And then my dad was an HR specialist, and I thought it was cool to hire and fire people, up until like an incident happened, and he worked at World, and, you know, they were retrenching, and the next moment, you know, people are like at my house and there's like guns blazing everywhere else. I'm like, ooh, no, that's a bit too risque, you know? I was at Rao when one of my friends, who's now one of the famous DJs right now in South Africa, said, come to class with me. And she used to go to Vets Tech, which was next door. And I walked into the class and people generally were freaking happy. And I'm just like, what do you call this again? You know, marketing and so forth. Came back home and I'm like, oh, freaking hell. You know, I think that's what I wanted to do. But I'm glad that that moment happened, because I don't think it would have allowed me to build what I'm building right now. Because I think the most nicest thing, or, you know, marketing allows you to think continuously all the time, because the problems are forever changing. Before COVID, I did not even have a financial or / tech client and so forth. And right now, you know, especially since COVID, communication, PR, and how you speak to customers has become so critical and so important. So it's only just, you know, made our industry quite important and so forth. But yeah, that's how I ended up where I am right now. The goal, to what Erin was saying, is not just to build a legacy that our, you know, our kids will look up to, or a legacy that I want to leave. But I realized that, you know, systematically, it's not our fault, that's how it was. You know, the starting point for women has just not been as equal to our male counterparts. And I think for me, it's quite, it's something that I feel strongly and passionate about, that we need to close the gap. We might not close the gap entirely right now within our, you know, our time right now, but at least we'll be halfway, especially for our kids. They honestly cannot be fighting the same battles that we are today. We need to give them a softer landing and so forth. But I wanted to build a business that, you know, the young ones that are coming behind us can aspire to. I was saying to Erin, you know, I keep on saying the reason why Xena is it just makes sense. Also, when I walked into the boardrooms when I was in corporate, to date, we speak about female first as if it's supposed to be something that we celebrate. You know, and I'm just like, guys, it's 2021, for freaking sake. Why are we still doing the first Black female, the first, you know, the first female to do X, Y, and Z? Why is it that we as women are still the first and first? So how do we change the narrative to say, you know, Alexandra is the head of, and that becomes like a norm? How do we start celebrating each other as women and so forth? How do we elevate each other to make sure that we're able to succeed? How do we start a platform where when you say, I've got a meeting at 4 o'clock, but my kids need to be picked up, I can call somebody in the network who runs a transportation business and say, I need, because women are carrying so much, you know, and they need a helping hand. And we are uniquely different from men. And I don't think that we should be competing with men, but I think we should be complementing each other, because our superpowers are different, and it's supposed to be that way. So how do we get away from the imposter syndrome of I'm not good enough, and I cannot do this, to I'm going to try, and if they ask me how much do I want to earn, I'm going to proudly say 1 million rand a month without flinching, because that's what I think I'm worth. You know, let's open up the door for negotiation and tell me what your budget is. But if you're to ask me how much I think I'm worth, oh, hell, that's what I'm sitting at. So how do we build such characters and so forth? So I'm excited to be part of such a platform. I'm excited to be learning from everybody else. I'm excited to be, hopefully we'll continue to collaborate and meet more wonderful women, because we must do it differently. And that's just me. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It was amazing. And Alex, thank you so much. I'm very conscious of the time, so I'm not going to, I'm so grateful for everybody that stayed on for this time. You guys are amazing. Yeah. Kate said to me, you're a spirit animal. I think I've now got already 3 spirit animals here on the sharing the screen with me, and probably another 150 on the app. So just a few great wins for us that I just want to celebrate. We had, in the first 3 weeks of going live, literally in the last month, we've gone more than 100 new people that organically came on to and downloaded the app. We've disbursed more than 100,000 Rand to one of the ladies to grow her business further in a record time of 2 days from the moment she downloaded the app to the money into her account. So it was an absolute exceptional experience. I've got an incredible team of 10 people, some of them you can't see, but they're so dedicated behind, and I'm not going to, they're already teasing me because I keep swapping, I'm using one's name just as a blanket for all 3 of them. So I'm not going to go through the list of names now, but such a powerful team of women that are making this happen behind the scenes, in front of the scenes, on the scene. And just want to give a shout out to the Sita and the team, my team, the retail capital business has been around for 10 years and allowed a platform for this environment, this network community, this app to become into fruition, to allow us to explore and create a new playground for businesswomen. So a great thank you to everybody that made it happen. So just one tiny little sneaky little challenge that we are putting out there for the next months, because I know that women are super competitive. So we just had to put that out there. The first 3 women to get their ambassador status to gold, 25 women onto the platform into their network. It's 2,500 Rand as a Woolworths voucher to go and spend before Christmas. So if you want to, well, whenever you do. So please make it happen. It's we all know that it's end of the year and it's been a tough 2021, almost tougher than 2020, let's be honest. So let's make it happen, and sharing's caring. So we'd love to see you guys in December. The collective will get together. The collective is the ambassadors, and we'll have an incredible workshop on what to expect in 2022. From digital marketing strategy, how do you get your head into the game and get yourself ready to own it, to walk into that 1st, 2nd, 3rd of January knowing I got this. This is my 1-page little strategic plan. I've got it, and I know where to start instead of kind of fumbling around with the ifs, whats, and maybes. So please don't miss that. It's going to be amazing. Looking forward to seeing you. And with that, I'm saying goodbye. I don't want to say goodbye. It's our first proper one, but I have to go. So love you guys, and have an amazing evening.
Bye, ladies. Thanks for joining.
Thank you.